One of the biggest challenges that learning riders face is the ability to not only understand the fundamentals of riding on the track, but to actually translate that knowledge onto the track that they ride. In this video, I'm going to talk about why riders can often get confused and frustrated when attempting to do that, as well as look at the mindset shift that needs to be made in order to reduce the typical learning rider issues. As new riders start out their life on the track with the intention of making improvements to their riding skill, there'll come a point where their desire to improve sends them out to learn the correct way to approach the sport and how they go about becoming faster and safer riders. This is great because it means the rider then stands the best chance of keeping themselves safe as they work to make improvements out there. However, there's a common pitfall that I see many of those same riders falling into, and that's to get bogged down with very specific ways of doing things, which can often lead to confusion when their idea doesn't match what they experience. The first point I want to touch on is when your idea doesn't bring the right result on track. By this, I mean you have a vision and idea of how you should approach riding around a corner, but many times out on track the results you get from trying to take that approach just don't feel right, or they don't bring you the result you want. For instance, as a new rider takes the time to find the right way of doing things, they might hear something like, trowel the brakes to the apex, or apex in the middle of the corner, or get back to the throttle at the apex. These sorts of things, combined with many others, then become the standard formula to which the rider is trying to work toward for every corner. But they quickly find that this one particular way of approaching a corner doesn't work in every single situation. And this is because every corner and section of track has their own nuances, and also because different parts of the corner can have a higher priority depending on what comes before and after it. As well as those I just mentioned, here are a few more areas where riders can get stuck. Throttle timing is a big one. Depending on the corner and the approach you're trying to take to it, you may well get back to the throttle right on top of the apex like I said earlier, but you'll also have instances when you can get back to the throttle well before the apex or sometimes after it. As I've covered in a previous video on this, we get back to the throttle once steering is complete and the line is set for corner exit. This line can sometimes be set before the apex, right on top of it, or just past it. For that reason, the point that you get back to the throttle will be different too. Speed of steering is another one. Changing direction quickly is a key component to speed in many places, but when riders learn this, it can sometimes leave them trying to flick the bike over in the blink of an eye in every single corner, when in fact there are many places where a slower steering action is more beneficial. Take a fast entry 180-degree corner for instance. In corners like this, it's actually more beneficial to steer slower and use corner entry to reduce your speed with trail braking. By being completely off the brakes as you steer and then flicking the bike over very quickly, which also means you'll likely need to steer later too, you're not leveraging corner entry and the front tyre as well as you could be. Again, there are places where a fast change of direction is key to speed, but that isn't the case for every single corner. So what about where you apex a corner? When looking at how we go fast around a corner, it's important to consider what comes before and after that corner. With most riders straddling 600cc machines and above, being able to use the power at your disposal is a key component to a fast lap time, and this means correctly setting up the corners that precede large acceleration zones, which more often than not means a later apex. However, you could take that exact same corner but replace the long straight with a very short one followed by a corner and the priority changes. In this instance, the exit of the first corner isn't as important in terms of acceleration, so you can now take an earlier apex and prioritize the entry phase and enter the corner faster on a shallower entry line. Now, this will send you wider on the exit of the first corner, but that's exactly where you want to be for the corner that follows, so it's okay. Same corner, different intentions, different apex. And one last common one, body position nuances. As we discussed in a previous video on the importance of body position, the fundamentals of a good body position are to offset lean angle, to be comfortable, and to not place any unnecessary strain or restrictions on the bike's chassis. Look at the very top of the sport and you'll see that these fundamentals can still be adhered to even with slight differences in how they're achieved. But riders often get bogged down with things like the perfect place for the feet, the head, the angle of the upper body, or elbow bend among many others. And this comes to the detriment of their practice time and the things that are actually going to make a big difference in their riding. With all of these things and the many more that riders get stuck with, I want to recommend that you look at the big picture. We absolutely want to achieve a fundamental standard out there on track, but that doesn't necessarily mean an absolute, strict way in which we control the bike, where we look and how we use our body, or the timing of any of those actions for every single corner. As you continue to learn and get more experience, you'll come to realize that there's a level of nuance in how we perform each of those tasks. And once you realize this, you'll find that things begin to click a little better in areas where they perhaps didn't before. One of the things that helped me get past this period was to become a student of all. One thing I recommend is to not sit too deep in any one teacher's camp. And that means learning from multiple trusted sources and not sitting too much in one corner and saying everything that this person says is gospel. Not necessarily because they're wrong, but as I came to realize with more experience and time spent learning, in certain instances some things just didn't fit my interpretation, what I experienced, or what I could see happening in the real world. I'd recommend becoming the Bruce Lee of the track riding world by learning from multiple sources and taking the bits that most resonate with you to adopt in your riding. This is going to help you see the bigger picture of riding, as well as help you better understand the nuances that come with this sport. Now, this might create a little conflict for you initially, but in my opinion, it's going to help things click for you a little better in the long run. Have you had any confusion around track riding fundamentals that left you stuck? Tell us about it in the comments down below. And as always, if you liked the video, then please hit the button and subscribe to the channel for more performance riding advice and guides moving forward. Outside of that, I'll see you in the next one.